So we're going to start today with giving you some really good news, and that is that your nonverbals are fine. Now, it may seem kind of counterintuitive to a nonverbal communication expert, and what I am is what I'm called a movement pattern analyst. And so what I'm trained to do is to observe you and your subconscious behavior and how that actually links to your brain and your decision-making process. And neuroscience has been really helping us in this regard lately because they've been doing more and more studies on how the subconscious works, and there's actually a thing in your brain called your limbic brain, and that's connected to your emotions. And one of the things that they've discovered is that you gesture before you even speak. So the idea that we can kind of mind over matter or control our nonverbals is kind of a misnomer. Yes, you can plan everything out and plan to do things, but then you're going to look like a robot. So that's why I say that your nonverbals are already fine. Put yourself off the hook. And the other big information point is the bold thing in the middle of your hand out there that says that perception is in the eye of the beholder. So put it on them. It's their fault if they don't like you. Has nothing to do with you, right? Right? If somebody says, "Oh, she's so stubborn," well, you don't think you're stubborn, right? You're just persistent. If somebody says, "Oh, well, she's really bubbly, just beware," or whatever kind of perception they have of you, it's not a reflection of your true self. So your nonverbals, there are some tips that I'm going to give you, when you're stuck in a situation, you're like feeling like it's going downhill. But again, it's subconscious. You don't know what you're doing. You really can't control it. It's very difficult to what we call repattern your body. And let's face it, you watched all the women come up here. There's really nobody with some weird tic, nobody's doing this to their hair, that you need to say, there's this thing you do, you really gotta fix that, right? None of us have that. So what we're gonna talk about today is really owning your nonverbals and how to use that in your communication. So let yourself off the hook. What I will share with you is this power of opposites. And how did I come up with that today? I was trying to think of, okay, 20 minutes, this is a room of really great women. What tip can I give them that you can use if you don't have any of the nonverbal training that I've had, or if you haven't heard my nonverbal, secrets decision-making process, which you can take, it's on the bottom of the handout, you can just sign up, right? And you can learn all that stuff. But if you haven't done that, what can I tell you? And that's where the power of the opposites comes in. Because we take in 10 million visual bits of information every second. I read that somewhere, right? I was like, wow, that's a lot of information. And so, we can be easily distracted because we're taking in so much information and we see something, and that's why you can't help but look at somebody who walks in. Or if somebody in another part of a restaurant suddenly does like a large movement or, laughs really loud and throws their arms up in the air, you're going to look at them because you're taking that in visually, and so you get distracted. And that's going to happen in your conversations too. People are going to get distracted. And the other thing that happens, and what you will read in the body language books, is to take everybody's nonverbals in context. You're supposed to come up with a baseline when you meet somebody so that you don't immediately think, "Oh no, they crossed their arms, they've closed off to me." So those flags don't go up so readily for you because you've kind of taken a baseline. Oh, they tend to sit with their arms crossed. Okay, so if they're sitting with their arms crossed, it's not my fault that something went wrong. So what I encourage you to do is when you feel like something is tanking in the middle of your conversation, or you've lost them, or they've glazed over, and you feel like it's not going so well, and that's that gut feeling. Your nonverbals brain is taking all this information in and is starting to give you these fight or flight signals or something. It's going badly, oh no, mayday, mayday. And when you start feeling that, do an opposite. So if you've been leaning in and you're so interested in what the other person is telling you, or you're so excited about your program that you have to share, we tend to lean in and get really excited, or we're pointing to our brochures. In that moment, think, wow, I'm really leaning in. What if I just lean back? So you're changing your nonverbals, and that's going to perk up the person that's on the other side of the table because they're going to notice the change. Non-verbally, they're going to be taking in something new has happened. If you don't know, I also direct theater and coach actors. And one of the things that I make sure to tell them is sort of the same thing. If you're hitting a climactic moment for your character, something in their character arc, make sure that there's something different going on subconsciously, non-verbally that you're doing so that the audience picks up on that. Oh, that must be an important moment. Or subconsciously they're going to be picking up that that was an important moment in the play. Every movie that you see, the climactic moment, usually something happens, right? It's something different that is either going on, or there's a new music that comes in, or the character's behaving differently. It's because that's what we're going to kind of wake up to and know that that's important because there's been a change. So you can do that in your conversation, or when it's the most important moment, even, this is what you think the real hook is, do an opposite non-verbally. If you've been closed off for a long time, just open up. And the other thing that's going to change is your collaborative signal. One of the things that I train in as a movement pattern analyst is what body language qualities merge together to increase collaborative signals, or to actually give kind of like privacy signals, like keep out signals. I need to process individually right now, so I need to go away, even if it's in my brain. And so what you may actually be doing with whatever your nonverbal habit is, you may actually be giving off closed off signals to them and you don't even know it. And so maybe that's part of the reason why they've kind of closed off, because they get, she needs to process privately right now. And so if you just do an opposite, change something, slow down, or heaven forbid, stop talking. Pause, breathe, right? And if you do that, it's going to change something, and it's going to change that nonverbal. So you may actually start exhibiting collaborative signals. This is the difference between, the guy at the bar that's got all the cute girls around him because he's like, hey, I'm easy, come over and talk to me. Right now I'm giving you nonverbal collaborative signals because I'm moving indirectly and I'm opening, okay? You don't know what that means, but that's the guy that's like, hey, come on over. Versus the guy over at the bar that's like, hey, hi, this is my, and they're like talking, and the ladies are like, I'm gonna go over to the guy that seems more calm over here, right? So you may be subconsciously doing things that you don't even realize. And if you work with me, I can tell you what those things are, but you could just do the opposite. And that's going to change that signal to your brain too, of I really like this person, we should be collaborating, because your brain's going to be taking on that opposite, which is what Amy Cuddy's study was all about, that I posted on the Facebook page. She had a very famous TED Talk that became, in 2012, I think it was even, and it became the power pose, and it became a thing in nonverbal circles. And she's I believe, a Harvard professor, and did a lot of research, realizing that all of the research prior to this had sort of been on the brain affecting the body and what that connection was. And she turned it around and said, well, what if our bodies change our brain? And it turned out that it was true. She did a study where people stood in an open position for 2 minutes, and then they went into a stressful situation like an interview or something like that, and they found that they actually raised the testosterone levels in their bodies and lowered the serotonin levels by taking on this open posture for 2 minutes. So she sort of suggests, if you need to, before an interview, go into like a bathroom stall and just open up. Or if you're waiting for an interview, have a newspaper that you're reading so that you're opening, rather than sitting waiting for the interview like this, curled in your seat, so that you have more confidence and you've raised these, the male alpha signals. What do? They sit large, right? They sit with their arms, stereotypically behind their head, or they take up a lot of space. And so for a long time, even women have been taught to do that. How many of you have heard that you should take up more space if you're in with men, right? You should sit a little bit broader and stuff like that. And so she says that that's true. I mean, it works if you do that. But I also thought, well, geez, if that doesn't feel good to you, like me, I'm like, I feel like I should be wearing my underoos, if I'm standing, or I feel like if I'm in a thing and I feel like, wow, things aren't going so good, I wish I could get into that power pose. The minute I do it, they're going to be like, she's doing that power pose thing. And so, it became so popular that you kind of be caught doing it. So I decided that everybody should have their own personal power pose. P cubed. Maybe it'll become a thing. I don't know. But my idea was that if we internalize a moment in our lives where we felt in the zone, or where we feel like we were confident and things were going so well with our business, or we were connecting so well with the person across the table, if we can remember that moment and physicalize it for ourselves, we can go back to that anytime we need it. And it sort of is, I guess, sort of an actor technique, a Stanislavskian sense memory idea. But it doesn't even have to be with your business. It could be a moment where you felt really great talking to your kids. I got through to my 13-year-old, woohoo, you know, those moments. Or maybe it's a place where you feel really, really great. Maybe you went on a retreat and there was this wonderful place that you had clarity and you got to sit and just be by yourself. And so what were those moments? So take a minute to think about that and see if you can remember even what your body was doing physically or what that sensation was. And then when you go home today, you can play around with what that posture might be, what that pose might look like. And that way you can rely on that before you go into these stressful situations. Instead of putting on Amy's pose, you're using your own organic, what means something to you. And it doesn't have to be that you do it very large. If your pose ends up being, if you're really into yoga and, you know, in the sun salutation, you just feel so open and that's so wonderful and that's your pose, you don't have to go into the meeting starting like this necessarily, right? But you can remember that. You can take that deep breath and you can just feel your chest expand and you can take on that posture and still have the resonance of that feeling and anytime you need it. So if you don't want to do the opposite when you're in the moment and you feel like something's tanking, or you're in this heated discussion with your kids and you need to take a second to step back and not engage. This is where I use mine a lot. It's not engaging, I'm not gonna engage. And so you can rely on that. So I'll share with you mine. And I did plant some folks in the audience that we talked ahead of time and asked them to start thinking about it, so maybe they would share a power pose that they've come up with. And so my power pose has to do with the spiral. It's part of my logo. The O in moving image is a little spiral. And the program that I'm developing that I'm really excited about is the idea that you can look at your business, every spiral you can look at both ways. You can either look at it as spiraling down or you can look at it spiraling up. So the idea is that you, with all the information, everything that we would work on, that you're actually going to take your business and you're going to spiral up. So even when I do it, I can't help but spiral with my gesture. So that turned out to be it when I started thinking about it. And so this kind of feeling of, aha, you know, I am powerful, hear me roar, whatever that, you know, is. And it is a cross gesture, which made me go, is that really the best thing? But it's that surge of energy. And so I don't have to go Olay or whatever. You know, I feel like I should have a rose in my teeth and I should start the tango or something, you know, it has that feel to it, but it's very energizing for me. So even if I'm just in the moment and I just kind of, you know, do a little twist and I can get that surge of energy flowing, and we know all about energy, right? Going up the spine and down the spine, and it really connects me, grounds me to the earth. So that's my power pose. And I invite anybody that had their power pose, if they don't mind sharing. Mary, come on up.
Okay, I can do that.
Yeah, so, you know, and why or how you came up with it, if you please.
Okay, I find that I am happiest when I'm helping people with social media, and my genius zone is not writing things, but finding things that communicate to other people.
I'm going to be
So I will often do this, like, you know, I'll pull it from this screen onto this screen, or from this place in the cloud onto here. I can't do a power pose, which is like, do. But what I can do is, as I'm walking forward, just kind of go, and that's it. I just grab. I am so awesome, and I can make you look awesome.
Thank you so much. So I even encourage you, you know, next time when we all meet, because this is such a wonderful sharing community, if you want to strike your power pose before you give your introduction and just see what that does to you, right? See if it makes the introduction feel more powerful, or if it seems that the words flow out of your mouth better or easier because you had that little moment of empowerment. Anybody else have an idea? Come on up, Deb, thank you.
So Alison really gave me the understanding that that moment when you know you've lost your audience or you're losing your client that you're talking to, and for me, it's when I haven't been connecting heart to heart. So that would be my gesture that I'm going to remember, is that when I connect heart to heart, that's when I connect with my audience, and that's when I connect with the person I'm talking to.
Great. And that would look normal too, right? Like she could, in the moment, she could just do that and nobody's going to think she's doing something, but it's going to be that little reminder for her. So anybody else? We have like 2 minutes left. Come on up, come on up. And thank them so much for illustrating for me. My plants.
This came every time I teach my class. Before I start a class, I'm pretty much all over the place. So you notice the way I talk to you. Can't talk without my hands, and I am open. So to pull myself together and to bring myself back to what I'm going to do and why I'm here, it's close. And if I were to do the huge thing, it's this, which I'm not going to do before I go into anything more. But just knowing that that's why I'm here and thinking about where my feet are and what I'm doing is enough to ground me.
Great. So I almost forgot, I am going to do a drawing after today, and I'll make sure that I get business cards from the outside room too as well for a free class. So that if you've taken my intro class before, you'd have a choice to take one of the other classes that are coming up, but so that I can share with you the decision-making process. So thank you so much. Use your power pose.